David Higgs.
I should actually leave after that intro.
It's lovely to see you with your rose and your hat and your EFF jacket. This has been a really fun stage. We've spoken about it quite a bit in various mediums. My new cooking show, Kitchen Closed, which kicked off this week, had you and I cooking together, which was enormously good fun. And fun is the optimal word, because over the last little while, you haven't had two of the world's hottest restaurants to run. You haven't had massive staffs to manage and incredible menus to rustle up in vast scales every day. You've just been having an enormous amount of fun rediscovering the joy of cooking.
Oh, that's exactly it, Dan, and the joy of wine. I think the when the normal everyday stresses and the strains of the restaurant go, your creative spirit comes back, and it's almost a sad thing today. But I was actually chatting to George Jardine down in Cape Town, and he said exactly the same thing. We're cooking food that we were taught how to cook, and all those classics, it's been an incredible time, and I'm absolutely loving it. Those simple dishes that give you such joy. I've actually just made a paella, and I just can't wait to get stuck into it.
So enormously annoying is the fact that I can't eat these dishes with you. I must have said that on about 10 different shows over the last few weeks. But what we can do is share some wine together. And something I've really enjoyed, partly by being forced by our current regulations, but also having the time as well, discovering bottles, finding things I'd completely forgotten I had, or also deciding, this is the lockdown. We could get hit by an asteroid tomorrow. Why not try this bottle of 1982 and see what it tastes like?
It's exactly that, when we opened Marble, myself and Vickers literally tasted something like, it was close to 800 wines, I think it was. And a lot of those wines came in twos, So we basically split the tasting lot, and I'm still tasting wines from 4, 5, 6 years ago that were then already aged, and it's been an absolute treat. And South African wine, and it just has come such a long way, and I'm loving this almost rediscovery of it, just in my own time, and that's important, in your own time. It's not rushed.
Food and wine, such a natural component of the culinary space. They dance together beautifully when done right. Different chefs have different opinions in terms of how it all works and what sort of control they want in their restaurant. Some guys don't have a sommelier at all. You've got the best sommelier on the planet in the form of Vickers, and an army of sommeliers working under him. So you've got some proper knowledge in there. How much contribution do you have in terms of the wine that goes into Marble and Saint?
Not much at all, Dan. No, when you have someone like Vickers on the team, I don't need to worry about anything. But the beauty of Vickers is, and just this is what makes him such a phenomenal young man, is that he would always come to me and he would always say, "Shit, man, you got to taste this, and just tell me what you think, and should we do that?" And he doesn't need any reassurance from me, that's for sure. But the fact that he knows that I enjoy my wine, and we have this rapport when it comes to wine, that's what makes my team so incredible. Is that he's got 8 Soms now with him, and I cannot to this day understand how restaurants still can't operate without Soms. They add such value, and the one thing with my team that I can say is that no one will force anything onto you. They will make suggestions. They make great suggestions, and we have a very unusual wine list in that we have some great stuff, and also some aged stuff that we've just bought on auction, which is incredible.
Well, from the wine to the steaks to the chef, everything ages well at Marble, but it's the wine we focus on today. Before we crack open that first glass, we've got a few people watching already. Angelique Kuvalakis, who says hello. Charmaine Walters, I think it's in lockdown somewhere in Observatory in Cape Town. And the aforementioned Kelly Lee Cleverton, the diesel mechanic from BMW, who's very impressed with our fashion. So thank you, Kelly. Let's crack open the first bottle. There was a little bit of misconception from some people who thought that Chardonnay Day was today. Of course, we both know it's a week from today, and we're celebrating it a week in advance. Yes. And we've got some Chardonnay from your wine list. It's a Chardonnay we tasted not that long ago with Dwayne Vermeulen and Quacha Boucher from out at Ataraxia, because that's what we're drinking, the 2017 Ataraxia Chardonnay. Before we go into this particular one, we'll have a sip because we don't want to delay the important stuff for too long. But Chardonnay is a component of the wine list in a restaurant where fine dining or great food defines the experience. It's such an important one to get right, isn't it?
It is indeed. You know, we often Sauvignon Blanc has a very special place on the menu, and I love the acidity, and I love where it cuts through things and so forth. And then we get our Chenin's, which are light and everything else. But when you taste something like this, that is as Vickers says, you know, it's sort of new world on the nose, so quite oaky and everything else. But then it's got that real old world style on the palate, which is flipping, you know, not too much oak, lime, citrus, so typical of what Chardonnay is. And this pairs well even with red meat that comes off the fire, because it can stand up to that. I wouldn't say that that's the perfect match. And I just want to say something about the pairings of wines, you know, like if you do enjoy a really good Chardonnay, it doesn't mean that you don't have to enjoy it with a steak, you know. And I really stand firm with that belief, you know. And that's why we've moved away from tasting menus and so forth, because you know, the choice should be yours, and our SOMs should make good suggestions for you, which they do. But this is such a balanced one. How's the lime on the finish? I mean, it just carries on for ages.
That balance, and I bang on about that regularly, but they're all great wines and wines that have that sense of balance. There's no single component that overrides everything else. It's exactly the same as a great dish. You're the master of combining simple ingredients incredibly well, which you do, and it's exactly the same process of getting wine right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it's so interesting. I worked with winemakers for quite a few years in Stellenbosch. I was and in Durbanville. And you know, there are guys that weigh things off meticulously. Kuni Snyman and Tristan Freder. I mean, the guy, you don't find a more meticulous guy, you know, when it comes to everything is weighed up. And then you get Louis Stradon up at Ernie House, and it's handfuls of this and it's exactly the same with cooking. You know, there's this. You know, you either do it in very specific ways, or there's this sort of more rustic approach, you know, and both work, you know, both work.
You mentioned the steak. I had a conversation. We've done so many wine shows in the last little while, but I was talking to somebody who asked me what I'd have a particular Chardonnay with, and I said I'd actually like to try this with a ribeye, because the richness and the marbling of that for me lend themselves to this wine. But away from that, and echoing the question I was about to ask, Angelique Kouvelakis is a great fan, and Charmaine Walters have both asked exactly the same thing. A dish where we've talked about the steak, but something else, maybe something from your Marble or Saint selection that you would have with this particular Chardonnay?
Dish-wise? Yeah, obviously. Look,
outfit, David. What outfit would you wear with this shot? Yes, dish. This is what happens when you spend all night on your roof chasing spaceships, Higgs.
So for me, like, and I just think of this paella dish now, a risotto, like for instance, just a very classic mushroom risotto, porcini. You know, there's big full flavors of mushroom, and the density of mushroom in your mouth. Oh, sorry, the risotto in your mouth. So it's this creamy sort of layer that it forms, you know, together with this. I mean, if I could have a porcini mushroom now with a burnt butter sort of dressed over it with some sage on a plain risotto with lots of Parmesan cheese. I mean, can you imagine? Hey?
Of course, it's slightly different to the mushrooms you had before you got on air today, but we don't need to delve into that space too particularly. What I love about using white wine and risotto together is about a third of a bottle into the risotto, and then the rest of it just takes you through the cooking process, and then you're ready to open another bottle afterwards.
I was asked the other day, I said, how are you managing, you know, your drinking habits sort of over this period? You know, if you open a bottle of wine, surely surely that, like you got to finish the whole thing. And I said, yeah, well, I think it's easy. So basically what I do is I open a bottle of wine, half goes into the food, half goes into the belly. But now I've learned, Dan, now I'm on to magnums. So magnums, half a bottle into the food, half a bottle into the belly, and away we go.
You're on your roof looking for spaceships. Right. Very quickly, Melissa Sutherland, must beware hats. Didn't you get the message, Melissa? Of course. Go away now and don't come back, Melissa, until you have
Absolutely.
a hat on.
What's kind of a question?
Professionalism in the people who watch Dan really likes wine. Now, if you missed the start, this is just me paying tribute to David's increasingly eclectic dress sense as lockdown continues. All right, let's set that Chardonnay aside because we could happily drink it all day long, or at least for another 12 minutes until it's finished. And let's move on instead to a red wine. And this is a wine I thought I'd run out, and then I found one last bottle, and it's one that you had at home as well. This is on the Marble wine list. And I gave this, there's no official award system, but this was probably my favorite red wine of 2019, the Anthony Rupert Cabernet Franc. As a grape, we are at the very top end, I think, reaching new heights with our Cab Franc. And with this particular one, this particular vintage, there was just something about it that just blew me away.
Dan, I have to say, excuse me, I have to say that this varietal for me is my favorite. I do like Cabernet Sauvignon, so Cab Sav is a big favorite of mine. But I have to say that Cab Franc for me is one of my favorite varietals. I love the tannin structure of it. They're quite big, but not sort of overwrought or overpowering in any way. And I don't know. I just if you get the good one, as this is, it's very hard to beat. I really, really do enjoy it, I must say.
I had D and I, my small but capable of drinking large amounts of red wine Greek wife, and I ate at Robuchon au Dôme in Macau last year, and they've got this ridiculous 17,000 bottle wine list that comes in 11 copies of War and Peace. One of the wines there I had was a Cabernet Franc, and it was all in French, and my French is schoolboy at best. And I knew the estate, and all right, I'll have a bottle of this. And I hadn't noticed that the blend was Cab Franc led. And there's just something about top-end Cabernet Franc that immediately you know exactly what it is on its own, or if it's in a very dominant blend.
Absolutely. And just sipping on this wine now, and just that finish that you get, that beautiful dry finish, where just that for me is everything. And as I said, the blackberries and blueberries on this thing. I mean, I'm not a big fan of picking up different flavors, but I mean, it's very difficult to ignore the blackberry and the blueberry on this. It's got massive notes of dark fruit, and yeah, lovely finish.
I made the mistake of opening a bottle of this on Christmas Day for my family, and my family very kindly polished off the rest of the case in their enthusiasm. So if you're watching this, Bear Robertson down in Franschhoek, this is my last bottle. Send urgent supplies. A few people checking in. Rian Shampa says the hats are to hide the uncut lockdown bushes. In my case, that is definitely right. My hair is atrocious, and Higgs's is not far behind. Kevin Brown, Dan, aka Olaf, looks like he's been watching Frozen too many times with his kids instead of homeschooling. I do anything rather than homeschooling. I would watch South Africa at Cricket World Cups ahead of homeschooling. That is how much.
No. We'll do anything like
that. Stapelberg, fantastic wine that. And Stefanos Rabi, who's busy producing this. That Franc is the best wine I had this year at Marble, actually. So there we go, Stefanos. And Kelly Lee Cleverton from within her tight motorbike leathers says it was delicious. So getting plenty of acclaim. David, we have to nip over to Delair Graph in just a moment.
No problem.
But before we say goodbye to you, in terms of what you're doing at the moment, there's some great work, selling your books, supporting charities, doing a lot of work for good causes. Point us in the direction of a way we can help out either the Higgs Empire or the people that you're supporting.
Dan, I think the support for Mile 8 has been amazing, and As you know, My Late is a very personal book for me. It's my first ever cookbook, and it's a bit of a life story, which it was never really meant to be. And the fact that it now all the funds go towards supporting my staff. You know, we've got 300 staff. Half of them are unfortunately or not unfortunately, but are from Zimbabwe, and unfortunately not getting any UIF at the moment. So, you know, like we're sitting with a really difficult situation. So please, if you guys can support and by buying our book, we're not asking for donations. All we want is to buy our book, so you can go onto the Marble website and purchase My Late. The full funds will go to the team, and a massive thanks to DHL, because DHL have really come on board and delivering the books door to door, 1,000 books as we stand at the moment. It's amazing, very grateful.
I have to apologize to Megan from DHL here, because I made the connection and she said, how many books do you think David's going to sell? About a dozen. Oh, that should be fine then. 1,000 books later, and DHL will be filing for bankruptcy if we buy any more, but for a very good cause.
With all of us.
I desperately miss our lazy Sundays over at Brian, drinking plenty of wine and choosing the breeze. We shall do so again soon. In the interim, thank you so much for spending time with us. Thank you for entertaining us royally every day. And lots of love to Carlos the Bulldog, who's the second best canine sommelier on the planet after Stavros the Terrible.
Thank you, my friend. Really great being on the show. Thank you. Appreciate it. Love to the family.
David Higgs, he's a great friend of Food and Wine in South Africa. Dear friend of mine. And as Kelly Cleverton says, probably having a few of those mushrooms in some of his stews. That's some really good wine there. So thank you to Ataraxia for that Chardonnay, and then that Cabernet Franc. It really is lovely. If it's not a varietal you've had much of, then get hold of some, because it is fantastic. I'm going to rid myself of my David Higgs style outfit and just go for the regular lumberjack and the absolutely terrible hair. I've tried ironing it. I've tried gel. I even tried a GHD and asked Faf du Plessis for some advice, but it seems I'm just not quite cut out for that kind of hairstyle. So I'll leave it as it is and distract you not with my hair, but instead of some more fantastic wine. A little earlier this year, I was lucky enough to spend some time down at De La Grave. We were shooting a pilot for a television show that's sadly on hold at the moment given lockdown, but we hope we'll see the light of day a little later on this year. But as well as staying in extraordinary luxury, the suites down at De La Grave, each one's about the size of Lesotho, and they are gorgeous. They've got a fabulous restaurant, art collection, and some of the finest views in Stellenbosch. And I don't say that lightly, because the views are great all over Stellenbosch, but De La Grave is particularly special. But the highlight of that trip was sitting down with a winemaker who, behind the quietly spoken visage, is an enormously passionate winemaking person. He's got a real feel for the part of the world in which he produces constantly and consistently such outstanding wine. So let us say hello to him. Morné Frey, how are you?
Hi Dan, well, yourself?
Extremely good. It's great to have a serious wine person on that actually knows something about wine. These daft chefs with their crazy ideas. Although Food and Wine is a big...
Put my hat on again. So, yeah.
Oh, your hair's looking slightly better than mine, but I think that was probably always going to be the case. We had a great chat with David about food and wine, and it is an important part for you guys, because as well as making terrific wine, you've got a couple of food offerings, but in particular, one restaurant at De La Grave that really is as good as anything in the Winelands.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Indochine, brilliant. I mean, it's like at the moment, it's a bit of a ghost town here. We all miss all the energy of the people. So we're hoping to see them back soon. And now it's lovely restaurants. And Indochine, being Asian influence, very special. Quite a bit of our mindset.
Across the various shows I'm doing, the various people I'm speaking to at the moment, there's a sense that although it's a terrible time for the world as a whole, the advantages are a bit of time to ourselves, a bit of time to our families, and a bit of time to think about where we are, what we do, how we're working on our various spaces. Has been the case for you, reflecting a little on life at De La Grave, the wines you make, and what you might be able to do going forward?
No, absolutely. I think the great thing is, I was just thinking about really what I'm going to tell you today. It's like the last 2 weeks has been one of the most beautiful autumn days in May that I can remember, and having the whole farm pretty much by itself, the winery and the vineyards. A lot of time to think. We went all the way to the top of the mountain quite a few times, sit there, and it's brilliant. It's sad to see the farm in the way it is now. It's really special to be on one of the most beautiful farms in Stellenbosch and just experience this really kind of tranquil space that we have here.
Enjoy the tranquility. When it comes to an end, there'll be a mad rush to get back to Del Egraf, I have no doubt, in search of not just the terrific food and the views and the lovely sweets, but also the wine. And that's what we have roped you in to have a crack at. We've got two today. We're going to try the Botte Muscop in just a moment, but we start off with one of two Sauvignon Blancs, because you've got a couple of them, haven't you?
Yeah, we got two Sauvignon Blancs. The one we're going to have is the Dallaire Sauvignon Blanc. The 2019 vintage, very special kind of vineyard selection that we use on that. And then the second Sauvignon Blanc, of course, our Curse of Cuvée, being quite a famous, well-ripe, rich style of Sauvignon Blanc.
All right, so this one that we've got here, just so we can see, this is the Western Cape one. And this I picked up at the estate when I was there a little earlier on this year. We've drawn quite a bit of Sauvignon Blanc over the last little while. We had tastes from Dalheim on, and we tasted 2 of the 117 Sauvignon Blancs that he is currently making. And I got to sample, in his case, a lovely contrast to the South African and New Zealand styles. When you're approaching this particular Sauvignon Blanc, what's the style? What are you looking to do? What's the aim with this one for you as a winemaker?
It's quite an exciting Sauvignon Blanc that we produce. It's like the fancy word is the multi-regional blend. This is all about the sites that we use for the vineyard. So this is none of the fruit is from the estate. We procure the fruit from up on the west coast, about 350 kilometers. So about 60% of the blend is like special fruit from the west coast. You kind of definitely have that sea kelpy, slightly saltiness from that area. And that's kind of the base of the wine. And then we move down to a bit of the Elgin fruit. I think Elgin, we get the longevity, we get the minerality we get from the Elgin fruit. And then we finish off all the way to the South Coast to Napier, where we get a really beautiful blackcurranty style of Sauvignon. So definitely bringing all the different areas together, the different sites and all the uniqueness combined, it's probably 350 kilometers, 250 kilometers south. It's really quite a special wine, and we love just driving up the west coast and just experience the whole area. And it's a site that we've been really, really working for the last 13 years with. A very special site up on the west coast. So very kind of focused on minerality and brightness.
I love your discussion of how you bring it all together, because it's something people often don't realize. They tend to think, well, if a wine is a Sauvignon Blanc, then it's a single variety and it's just one load of wine, whereas a blend will be different types of grapes, where in fact you can blend in a Sauvignon Blanc, blend in a single variety to just compose something that offers so much more.
Yeah, absolutely. Also I think what we do very quite known for our Sauvignon Blancs is it age particularly very well. So we have a 2019 now. So about 10 months in bottle. We like to really only start drinking our Sauvignon Blanc now, because we also add a 5% of barrel fermented Semillon from Elgin, to just kind of give a little bit of extra waxiness, a bit more texture. So as you know, being on Dallaire, we are very strongly focused on wine in restaurants, food and wine matching. So it's definitely an easy drinking wine, but at the same time perfectly with West Coast oysters. Kind of definitely more the mineral style of Sauvignon Blanc. So yeah, it's one of our wines that we take quite a lot of effort and kilometers into making. But it's definitely quite special. I really enjoy this wine.
Well, the results are there to be seen. It's quite strange. You go from quite a lot of asparagus when you start off, and then you go into the wine and it explodes into this whole range of tastes and flavors.
I don't know if you pick up that very beautiful saltiness on the finish. And the nice thing about the saltiness and where it comes from, this vineyard is about 2 kilometers from the ocean. And if you walk through the vineyards, you see the salt crystals kind of coming up in the earth. And it's actually a bit of a problem in the area. So they're slightly over-irrigating that area just to get some of the salt just kind of deeper in the soils, because it can actually hurt the roots. But if in the end, some of this sea salt actually end up back into the wine. And if you taste the wine on its own, it's really almost like brackish, very kind of saline, watery, very special side. I think it's really special. People should also do keep some of them for about 5-6 years before you drink it, especially 2019. It's a very particular, very good vintage for us in this wine.
Yeah, like that Silences there. I think that's Semillon also helping with that sense of a long and lengthy future to behold. We do try and encourage people to keep their white wine a little longer and try it a bit more. And this is a super example of the Sauvignon Blanc, which most people tend to think, oh, Sauvignon Blanc, I must drink it now. This one's definitely got legs on it.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got some of our wines that are over 10 years old, and it's still drinking beautifully. I mean, it does help to have it under screw cap, of course. But some of our Sauvignon Blancs, it is really some of the gems in the cellar we have currently in our vintage. It's old Sauvignon.
Right, we've got plenty of people watching. Melissa Sutherland, I hope you now are wearing your hat, Melissa. Perfect weather for wine tourism. One of my clients' favorites. Love the Botmascop. Delaire has it all. Kevin Brown, so agree. The tourists are missing the most spectacular autumn weather and turning leaves in Stellenbosch at the moment. Helen Nichol is watching from Northern Ireland. Charlene Kotzer says she loves the show. Excellent. You have fabulous taste, Charlene. Frederick Gumin says, hello. I've got your surname right there, but Frederick says hi to Mornay. Skulk Stapelberg's added another wine to his list. It's a growing list there, Skulk. And then Charlene Kotzer also says, I hope you drink the Botmascop next. Well, guess what, Charlene? That is exactly what we have.
Mine's got stickers on. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. So you've got to put some stickers on your one so it looks even. All right, 2017 Botmascop, a wine you and I drank together a little earlier on this year. And the obvious question first, the story behind the name, and then what wine goes into this?
Yeah, so Botmascop has been actually Dalaire's flagship wine. In fact, I think I'm like 100% correct. About 1994, the first vintage of Botmascop was released, long before Mr. Graf bought the property, and it's always been the flagship wine. And Botmascop, if you look there, the mountain on that's Botmascop. So that's actually our Dalaire mountain.
You got a great future as a weather reporter, Mornay, and it'll be slightly overcast in this one. So that's Botmascop.
Yeah, Botmascop is been a very historical mountain for Stellenbosch. I mean, it used to be called Boatman's Peak, or the Boatman or the Boatman when Stellenbosch was founded. It's kind of almost like Kanonkop, the signal like mountain for the villagers. The boatmen went on top. You can see the ocean from Botmascop, and it was just a kind of a signal station. So great name. Everybody in Stellenbosch knows Botmascop the mountain, and I hope a lot of people know Botmascop the wine. It's been a very kind of iconic wine for us.
What goes into it?
Pardon?
What goes into your Botmascop?
The Botmascop is Cabernet Sauvignon based. It's about 65% Cabernet Sauvignon. We use quite a big portion of Cabernet Franc in the wine as well, because I really like the Cabernet Franc. Because Cabernet Sauvignon can be quite chunky, quite rich. I think the Cabernet Franc, the kind of lovely perfuminess, that kind of lovely greenness sometimes you get in a very positive way, can really almost dilute the wine and make the Cabernet not so aggressive and not so tight. 2017 was, I think, to date, my favorite vintage. I think we did the same in the interview earlier this year. Definitely my favorite vintage ever on Dalaire for Botmascop. We all talk about this 15 vintage being this great vintage. Yes, it was a fantastic vintage. But I find that our 2017 Botmascop, we have the X factor. There's something that's earthiness in the wine that makes it really sexy. It kind of gives it that kind of almost old world character and in a clean way. Gives it a really kind of, let's talk about the X factor, that earthiness. It's a beautiful style. It goes into good old barrels, French oak barrels. I'm not going to be too technical, but it gets the full treatment for being the style. And I think for me, the what do you call it? The brief to myself, it should please the punter and the geek. It should be easy drinkable. It should be accessible, but at the same time, it should be quite serious. People who love Bordeaux, like myself, try to spend much time there as I can. Kind of bring about the similarities between what's in Bordeaux, but to the uniqueness of Stellenbosch. I mean, this is Stellenbosch 100%. Stellenbosch being the king of cab, Stellenbosch being kind of the king of Bordeaux blends almost. And there's some beautiful examples outside of Stellenbosch. I think in Stellenbosch we get the ripeness, we get the richness, we get the sunshine, beautiful aspects, and we get a lot of north-facing, south-west-facing aspects within Stellenbosch, making the complexity of these type of wines quite fun to blend and put together. That's fun wine.
And it's clearly a wine you love making. We've had a few conversations. We're chatting to Carl down at Hartenberg a couple of weeks back about his Megan, the slightly lighter style of red blend. We're seeing a lot more of those in Stellenbosch, the lighter style, but traditionally this is the calling card of a lot of Stellenbosch, and it's just a wine that naturally pays tribute to the kind of terroir, the kind of conditions that allow you to make such great wine in Stellenbosch.
Absolutely, I think there's a place for lighter style red wines, and I think some areas outside of Stellenbosch definitely produce beautiful examples of it, especially if you have a very warm area where you rather pick a bit earlier to get that focus more on the freshness and the over ripeness. But in Stellenbosch, the completely abused word of early afternoon sun breeze, sea breezes. We definitely get that. We get that cooling down effect every night, which definitely helps to get better structure, better tan, and better color here in Stellenbosch, because you're in the valley of just quite special. And then the Bannock, where we are in, is even, I mean, being a bit biased, but it's quite a special area, quite a young area for winemaking. But what we get in the Bannock is quite unique as well. If you look at the Helderberg fruit, you get a lot of dark, dense, tannic red wines. Where here the site gives us more red fruit-driven, softer tannins, more elegant wines in this valley. And I think the balance it's quite good. So it's a really fantastic site to make wine. And Cabernet is king on Dalle and equally Chardonnay. So we should taste the Chardonnay next time. It's almost International Chardonnay Day next week maybe, but it's great stuff.
I look forward to it. We've got plenty of people chipping in. Lisa Harlow says she's got a few bottles of the 2015. Lisa, you seem to have quite a bit of wine. I think we need to come and pay you a visit. Frederick is your Belgian importer, and he's watching on and agreeing with you on the quality of that 2017. Rian Schemper making sure we get hold of some 2017. And
Rian is my assistant.
Rian also tells us that it is 315 Rand cellar door price. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Well done, Rian. You get the rest of the week off for getting that right. Congratulations and well done. And Fergal Sherry is watching from Northern Ireland. I did a tasting for the Fermanagh Fury Wine Society in Northern Ireland last night. I'm amazed he's up after the enthusiasm with which he approached yesterday's tasting. So everybody tuning in, wanting to know when we can get wine, that's not a question you or I can answer. But the question I can ask you, in what's been a reasonably grim time of late for the wine industry in South Africa, let's be honest, is what excites you at the moment? What puts a smile on your face? What says to you, Mornay, this is what I have to look forward to on my horizon as winemaker at De Leygraf?
I think if you look at all the kind of stuff that's happening now and we're all in this nonsense at the moment. The great thing at the moment, we've had probably one of the best red wine vintages 2020 in a very long time. Last year, 2019 has been a very tough vintage for us. We didn't get the ripeness we wanted, and the extraction wasn't there we want. But we're sitting here with some brilliant wines in the cellar, which is fantastic. I think 2020 some of the reds are really spectacular. Our Sauvignon Blanc is really, really good. We just bottled some of 2020 rosé. So soon, once we're allowed to sell that, we'll definitely put it in the market. So definitely, I think the great vintage. I don't try to think too much about what's going around. I think to be stuck here in the cellar and great view and nice wine, let's and we can't really, doesn't help to worry, just kind of take day by day and see once we can start. We've been very lucky to be able to export better wines, and we've sent Frederick a wine left today. So we sent quite a bit of wine overseas already. So yeah, we keep it ticking and hoping to hope for the best and see how it goes.
One last question for you quickly. Skulk Stapelberg wants to know how the export markets are looking with the impact of Corona for you guys.
Look, we're very kind of estate-based. We get a lot of guests on the estate, and so export is 30% of our market. I mean, the rest is, and also the rest of the world is not just Africa stuck in lockdown. Everybody's so it's a bit tough, but I think definitely, at least there's some stream coming in, and it gives us reason to come in the cellar and prepare wine and bottle. And like I said, we did send quite a few orders back. Away already, but talking to some of my other friends, I was quite surprised by how many wine they have already sent. the last 2 weeks when we were allowed to export again. So I think for some wineries, definitely it's a bigger part of the business. For others, a smaller part. So it depends. Everyone is different, but as long as you start selling and keep selling, that's probably the most important at the moment.
If you are watching and you are outside of South Africa, or if you're in South Africa and you know people outside of South Africa, people who've watched too much Carte Blanche and emigrated to Australia and New Zealand, send them messages, tell them to buy South African wine, support our industry. We have great wine, we have great winemakers, we have a great product we need to promote. And Morne, thank you so much. The hospitality is brilliant. And if I can ask you in closing, when I was down, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye. When I stayed at De La Graaf, I had a wonderful butler who looked after my suite called Johan Loebscher. He was a great guy, polished my shoes for me, ironed my shirts. Lovely, lovely guy. Quite an old guy, but lovely guy. Please give him my regards and thanks. And I look forward to seeing him next time I'm there.
Yeah, I'll tell him when I see him.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Appreciate the time. Morne Frey, who's been winemaker since De La Graaf has been going, makes some terrific wine, and that Sauvignon Blanc and that red blend, the Bot Muscat, two terrific examples. Thank you to David Higgs. He's always a riot, great entertainment, fabulous chef, but also loves his wine. What is on the horizon? Well, next Tuesday, it's an all-women's show on the Dan Really Likes Wine live tasting. We head over to KWV Azelle, who makes the Mentors range, some really, really good wine. We'll be trying some of her wine, and we'll also be catching up with Erica Obermeyer, who used to make all of the still wine up at Graham Beck, now has her own label, and I don't think she's ever made a wine that's not a 5-star from John Platter. She's got a terrific touch, wonderful, wonderful person, and a great winemaker to boot. Currently up on the Dan Really Likes Wine website, our Facebook page, YouTube channel, you can see this week's episode of the Sommelier series with Niederberg, featuring Gregory Mutambe, who is the sommelier at the 12 Apostles. And you can also catch up with my interview with cricketer Kevin Peterson, who talks us through his wine list at Umganu Lodge. He knows a lot more about wine than he did a few years ago, when differentiating between red and white was something of a challenge. So plenty of wine to discuss and talk about. Maybe not so much to drink right now, but that horizon surely has to be coming into play soon. Thanks to everybody who joined us and watched the show. Thanks again to Morne and to David. And I'll be back again with you next Tuesday with Azelle from the Mentors, Erica Obermeyer and her range of wines, and another great celebration of something South Africa continues to do, I think, better than anybody in the rest of the world. Happy drinking. Stay safe. Cheers. Ta-da. Magic. Thank you, Morne. That was awesome.